Let's get into it. I got two videos for you, okay? And we all know O.J. Simpson passed away. Now, as soon as I heard that was going to happen, I even commented on a post of my friend who posted about it. I said, well, get ready to hear the most wild comments about this man who's passed away. Now, there's also some wildness going on in the mainstream media in regards to O.J. Simpson passing. CNN talking about remembering OJ in the trial of the century. What this woman does, the mental gymnastics that she does, where she goes from OJ being dead to black people connect with him because two white people were killed, to white people are the problem and they need to have a conversation about race in America, is absolutely wild. So I'm going to show you this clip and then I'm going to connect it to more. And I know I talk about this guy a lot, but I really want people to know about him, Saul Alinsky. And we're going to explore rule number 7 and see that if this rule that I'm going to show you doesn't connect to exactly how this woman's talking. Okay, let's just get into it right now. Listen to this.
But it was so racially charged because of what had happened just before with Rodney King, but also just how Black Americans feel about policing. It's not like O.J. Simpson was the leader of the civil rights movement of his era. You know, he wasn't a social justice leader, but he represented something for the Black community in that moment, in that trial, particularly because there were two white people who had been killed, and the history around how Black people have been persecuted during slavery. There were just so many layers. And I guess I would just close with this, is that there was racial tension then, there is racial tension now. It might not be the backdrop of the Trump campaign, but until this country is ready to actually have an honest conversation about the racial dynamics from our origin story till today, we will always have moments like O.J. Simpson that manifest, and our country will always be divided if we don't actually deal with the issue of race. But it was so racially...
Absolute nonsense. She went from policing to OJ represented Black people because two white people were killed. Then she went on to blacks during slavery. Then, of course, can't talk about all this without connecting it to Trump. I mean, that's just silly. That's just silly. You don't have cake without getting some whipped cream out. Of course, you got to put the little cherries on top, and that's Trump. So she connects it to Trump and then says the whole, I always write my stuff down, the whole country has to have a conversation about race. Wouldn't you think? I've seen images of white people at BLM protests kissing Black people's feet, cleaning their shoes. I'm pretty sure I've seen thousands of people who are white start recognizing their privilege and working on that, understanding that they're the big oppressors and that they benefit from this system, none of which I believe. I don't believe any of that. I don't believe white people who had nothing to do with the past should have to constantly be apologizing. It makes no sense. I've seen thousands of white people doing that. I've seen thousands of companies. We've done videos on it. I'm sure you've seen it. DEI. Thousands of companies are hiring these people who specialize in anti-racism. They specialize in training white people how to be less racist. Thousands of companies have taken these people in and said, yeah, teach us. And have thousands of their employees sit there and go, yeah, okay, I get it. Go through workshops, have to sign off on things, have to dedicate that they're going to be this way at the workplace, changing their minds and how they think and how they see themselves, understanding why they should be guilty as white people. And I say all that to say, if all these people have done that, and we're seeing things time and time again, right down to Obama being president, don't you think the conversation has been had already? And it's been being had for decades? But the reason why she's saying this conversation needs to be had and linking it to slavery and bringing up policing, she brought up all the buzzwords that Black people who like to be oppressed like to hear, that white people who feel guilty like to hear as well. Well, all of that links to Saul Alinsky's work. I want you to listen to this and see if it doesn't correlate with the way this woman was talking. Listen.
The thing is never the thing. According to Alinsky, that's a direct quote. The thing is never the thing. You sometimes find yourself wondering, what's going on in the culture? What's causing all this? Is it about justice for George Floyd? Is it about ending police brutality? Is it about ending racism? Is it about equality? Is it about trans rights? It's none of the above. Again, Alinsky said the thing is never the thing. The idea is to obfuscate the issues by continually moving the goalposts. Keep your enemy frustrated in his search to find out what it is that you want. Don't give him the end game that he wants. Keep him on his heels. Don't be reasonable, but continually accuse your opponent of being unreasonable. When he meets your demands, make more demands. When he meets those, make still more. That's what you do. Senator Tim Scott was in discussions with Senate Democrats about the so-called Justice Act. And Scott said this: I offered to include an amendment for every concern that was presented by Democrats. They offered zero and walked out. That's Saul Alinsky. I'm sure they weren't ready for Tim Scott to say, okay, I agree. All right, good. Then they turn right around and make more. That's the way it works. Alinsky says this: you cannot risk being trapped by the enemy in his sudden agreement with your demands. You cannot. Rule number 8, seize.
Rule number 8, seize power. But the reason that you can't give in, you can't have that unexpected trap, is because then when you walk off, you become unreasonable. So if you keep moving the goalpost and you keep not being reasonable and you keep making more and more demands, they can never satisfy you. And as they keep doing this, they inch closer and closer to having more and more and more power. You see it with a lot of not regular black people. Regular black people, us that are in the inner cities and poverty and just trying to make it, ends meet, working like every other just working class person, doesn't benefit us. But you see the power inching along with the elite black people, the elite people who are in positions. You know, Coleman Hughes even talked about how a lot of the things that happened after George Floyd, where they were making, you know, more black board members, they were helping the elite class of black people. Things were looking better for them, but not for regular people. In fact, the thing that regular black people got in that whole thing was defunding the police. And in actuality, the numbers showed that black people in the inner cities, people in the inner cities in general, didn't want less police. They wanted more police because they know what's around them. If you're in Chicago and you're hearing gunshots every night, you're not sitting back being like, man, I wish there was just less police. You're like, I wish there were more. I wish there were so many that I didn't hear gunshots anymore and that I didn't know 17 people who have been shot and killed throughout my life. So it's interesting. It's interesting. These things tend to benefit the elites, the supremacists of the black people in this. But also you can look at LGBTQ and see the same thing. It's not the regular people who are part of that group who are benefiting. It's people who are higher up. Dylan Mulvaney is not a working class person who's just trying to make it and just trying to identify as such and such. Dylan Mulvaney's a multimillionaire. You see that. You see it. It's interesting, man. Keep moving the goalpost. Don't be reasonable. Make more demands. That's exactly what this woman was talking about. She's saying the whole country has to have a conversation. That's completely unreasonable. That's not a thing that you can actually accomplish. The whole country can't have, like, what are you going to do? You're going to just start walking up to, you're a white person, you're just going to walk up to black people and be like, pull out 2 chairs on a street corner and just be like, you and me, let's talk about race. Let's have this conversation. Come on, bud. I'm ready to apologize. You're just going to do that all over the country, millions of people? No, it's never going to happen. But they know it's not going to happen. That's why they can continue to say that. That's a phrase that has been used for decades and will keep being used because it's something that actually can't happen. The whole country can't have a conversation about race. And then everybody comes to the same conclusion? And I'm not just talking about white people that can't do it. There's black people who probably don't even want to do it. They're like, I want to go to work. I'm going to work. I don't have time to have this conversation. You know who can sit and have these conversations? People who are in the 1%. They can go and meet up with another black person who's in the 1%. They can be like, man, I just really want to pick your brain about race. Let's go to brunch. Let's have $100 brunch and just talk about oppression and race. And the black guy's going to straighten his tie and be like, I'd like that a lot. I know this place down the street. It's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. And again, all of this conversation that she was having was based on O.J. Simpson. A black guy, again, notice this, a black guy who was the elite of the elite. O.J. Simpson at the time was top of the top. Athlete, he was in commercials. It was O.J. Simpson. Everybody knew about O.J. Simpson. He was the man. He was up there with, at the time, Bruce Jenner. They were athletes, incredible athletes on cereal boxes and all sorts of things. So we're taking this black guy who more than likely, I mean, he got off, but more than likely killed 2 white people. And because this black guy killed 2 white people have to address what was going on with slavery and have to have a conversation about race if they want this to stop. It's amazing. I hope she stretched. I hope she was real limber before she got into that whole mental gymnastics thing. You know, I can't keep up with her. I can't do flips like that. I don't know. I just found that very interesting. And, you know, I'm going to keep bringing up Saul Alinsky and his work, and I'll probably end up doing a deeper video about the work. The book is called Rules for Radicals. This podcast that I was showing you here is by the name is Larry Alex Totten. Here, let me even scroll down so you can see. This is the gentleman's name right there. He has, and this podcast is incredible. He goes through all the rules that Saul Alinsky laid out. He explains them, and he does a damn good job of it as well. If you follow him, please comment on his video. Say do an interview with Coach Colin, because I've been trying to get a hold of this guy. I would love to do an interview with him and just pick his brain about all this. But again, the book's called Rules for Radicals, and if you read that book, you know the movie They Live. You know the movie They Live. He puts on the glasses and he's like, he takes them off and it's just normal. He puts them on and he's obey and all this stuff. The second you read Rules for Radicals, it's like putting on the glasses, and then when you look at politics, you'll be like, oh my gosh. Because, you know, when you bring up the topic of people becoming co-opted, and, you know, you have Brett Weinstein and Joe Rogan talking about there being some kind of cabal and all this stuff, none of it makes sense. But then when you, to most people, but then when you read Rules for Radicals, you're like, oh, it actually does make perfect sense. And then you're like, oh, Hillary was a student of this guy. Obama was a student of this guy. Most community organizers are students of this guy. His work links directly into Marxism. Oh, it all begins to make sense. You see it so much clearer, and you can see the tactics that they do. Anyways, just wanted to show that to you guys really quick. That was rule number 7. And remember this as you're watching things. The thing is never the thing. Think about that. The thing is never the thing. When they're talking about one thing, you can use climate change. There's so many different things you can use. It's never that thing. It's always the end result being they have more power at the end of it. That's why rule number 8, he was about to talk about it, is seize power. The thing is never the thing, and seize power. The thing is always seizing power. That's always what they're going after. And that's why it sounds like they're talking in these circles and you can never catch up, and they're never being truly reasonable. Just coming forward and saying, these are the demands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's always, well, reparations. Give every black person $2 billion. Oh, you can't do it? Ah, well. Didn't think you would. You know, you people. It's ridiculous. Anyways, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. I'm out. Rules for Radicals. Go get it.